Hey, what's up, guys? Richard Martin here with Farmers Insurance. Today we're going to talk about the Great Fire of London in 1666 and how it has shaped the creation of the modern insurance industry for home insurance. That is literally where home insurance came from, and it's actually pretty wild. So we're going to jump into a little bit of the history on that, how it also created the fire engine, led to the fire brigade, which we call firefighters now. All that was created because of this fire and because of insurance. The insurance companies actually created their own fire brigades to fight off the fires should they happen. So 1666, 357 years ago today, the Great Fire of London happened. There was a lot of speculation on where the fire came from. Turned out to be a little bakery on Pudding Lane. Yes, that was the culprit. So 13,000 houses later, 87 churches later, we have now what is known as fire insurance. The number of people that were displaced from their homes and that were placed in debtors' prisons because they didn't have the money to pay back their mortgages, those people were forced into prisons. And those prisons became overcrowded, overwhelmed, and society was crumbling and collapsing in the center of London. So at that time, private insurance companies came into existence. We have an economist and financial speculator that created this idea of creating a fire insurance plan, in which something were to burn, the house were to burn to the ground, they would come in and rebuild it for them. So one of the major reasons, though, was the materials that the houses were built out of back then. So they initially began doing inspections on the houses to identify what kind of materials, what type of roofing that the houses had, and then they would mitigate them, and they would adjust premiums and costs based off of how the houses were built. We see that today with the type of roof that you have, but more so in regards to maybe wind and hail. Okay, so fire insurance has expanded and evolved over time to include other perils. But back then, one singular item, fire. So what did insurance companies do to offset their risk? What other things did they maybe do? They actually created the first fire brigades, firefighters. So the states and the municipalities, they did not create the firefighters that we know today. The insurance companies would actually employ their own private firemen that were called Thames Watermen. These group of firemen would be available mostly at night because that's when they would light their candles. That's when fire was typically used on a larger scale in the house, and they'd be available at the night. They'd have up to 30 per insurance company in the city of London, and they'd be available on call to respond to these incidents. And they would actually put ladders every night up against the houses to make sure that if something happened, they could access the roof, access the fire, bring water up there, and also bring people out of the houses and help them go to safety. They would store them at local churches because there were so many churches in the city at that time. And additionally, the fire engine was created because of the insurance industry. The insurance industry invested into inventors, innovation, and they created the first fire engine that could pump water to put out these fires. So by inventing and innovating into modern technology, they were able to offset costs for the homeowners, bring those prices down because they could mitigate their losses quicker. Same thing as I mentioned before with the materials on the housing and how that affected their pricing. So how did they know whose house was whose if it burnt down? It was actually really interesting. I think I'm going to go ahead and buy one. I'm going to check it out on eBay, see if any of them still exist. But they would use metal plaques and they would nail them up to the top of the houses that they would insure. And they would have a code and a number that was on it, and it would be metal. So if the house burned down, they could find it in the ash and identify who the insurance company was that was responsible for rebuilding the home. So the very first policy numbers were essentially plaques on the top of a building. That being said, if a fire brigade was dispatched to one of the properties that they were insuring to put out the fire, there was a lot of rumors that they didn't put out the fire on my house and they let it burn to the ground. However, the insurance companies combated that with saying, no, we have the next insured 3 houses down. We're going to put this fire out because we don't want it to spread. So that type of, you're insuring their house but not mine and you won't help me is kind of what led to the expansion of let's do this on a local level. And then let's also expand insurance to be more of a requirement. That way we can protect everybody in the community. So I know a lot of people think insurance is a scam, but there's a real reason and rhyme to, the madness and chaos of insurance itself. That's pretty much it. I mean, it has changed year over year, century over century, as mentioned before. One of the largest insurance companies, Lloyd's of London, they got their roots from this, creating, being part of the fire insurance industry. So one of the other very first insurance companies changed its name a few years later to Phoenix Insurance Company as it rises through the ashes and representation of the Great Fire. So just a little, advertising, marketing ploy to kind of get attention and get more clients. So thought that was also pretty neat about leveraging the name of insurance companies, just like Farmers Insurance we started here in the United States, helping out farmers. That's all I have for you guys today. I hope you learned something. I hope it was somewhat interesting, knowing where insurance came from, how it started as a name peril of being just fire only, and now how it's evolved into either, we have name perils that are 10 items in Virginia or 17 items. And then we also have something called open perils, which is anything that you can think of except for a list of exclusions. And that's much more comprehensive. And that's what we offer here at Farmers Insurance. If your current insurance agent can't answer the question of what kind of peril policy do I have, is it named versus open? What does it cover? What does it not cover? Please reach out to me. I'd love an opportunity to earn your business and educate you more and make sure that you're properly protected. So again, Richard Martin with Farmers Insurance here in Virginia. Thanks, guys.